They sold the house, my house, after I paid off every cent of their $280,000 mess. I'm Kelsey Monroe. Tell me in the comments, have you ever been treated like a walking wallet by your own family? It was a Wednesday. The sun was sliding behind the tall pines that frame our porch. I had just finished my second hospital shift. I was tired, but proud. The night before, my mom cried in my arms, saying I saved the family. My dad, who almost never hugged me as a kid, pulled me in and squeezed hard. "You're our hero," he whispered. I believed him. I thought finally I mattered. I stepped out of my car, still smiling from that moment. But something was off. The curtains were gone. The driveway was empty. The flower beds my mom used to fuss over were ripped up. I ran to the front door. The key turned, but inside the house was stripped bare. On the floor sat a white envelope with my name scratched on it in a hurry. "Thanks for fixing our credit, loser. We moved to Florida with your brother. Don't call, no name, no apology." Just that. I dropped the note, sat down on the bare floor. Then I crawled onto the front lawn like a ghost. Neighbors walked past and waved like nothing was wrong. I wanted to scream. I wanted to set the sky on fire. Instead, I sat there, letting the truth hit me from every direction. Then, slowly, I smiled. Because they didn't know one small thing. When I paid off the house last week, I quietly transferred the deed to my name. Every form signed, notarized, filed. The sale they tried to push through wasn't valid. In 24 hours, they were going to learn what it means to betray the wrong daughter. Let's just say they would regret every dollar I ever handed them. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I watched the sunset spill red over my knees while the letter crushed in my fist. They really did it. Used me like a bank and tossed me like junk mail. But while they were scheming, I was paying attention. For the first time in my life, I stopped believing their words and started reading the fine print. Here's how we got here. 6 months earlier, I was sleeping in my car after a 12-hour shift. I had been staying with a friend after my ex kicked me out, but I didn't want to be a burden anymore. That night, my mom called. She was sobbing. "Kelsey, we're going to lose the house. Your father made some bad investments. We're $280,000 in debt." That house was my anchor. The porch from my 5th birthday. The stairs I crept down every Christmas morning. Losing it felt like losing a part of myself. I asked, "What happened to the money you inherited from Grandpa?" "Oh, honey," Mom sniffed. "We used it to help your brother start his business. You know how hard it's been for him." Of course. Evan, the golden boy. He crashes cars, quits jobs, cheats on girlfriends, and somehow they always protect him. I couldn't stand the idea of our home on an auction list, so I drained my savings, maxed my cards, and took out a personal loan. They were stunned when I walked in with a folder full of cashier's checks. Dad went quiet. Mom dropped to her knees. "You're an angel," she whispered. They made me dinner, took photos, posted about me like I was returning from war. And me? I was just happy to be seen. That's the part that hurts most. I didn't just lose money. I lost the little story I told myself, that they loved me like they loved him. That illusion burned away, and I was done being their safety net. Because while they were packing for Florida, I was finishing the deed transfer. They didn't even notice the papers I slid in with the refinancing. Now, as I stood on my empty lawn, the only thing I felt was power. They thought they took everything, but they actually set me free to burn the bridge. The next morning, I drove to the title office in a black hoodie and sunglasses. Not because I was ashamed, but because I wanted the surprise to land like lightning. "Miss Monroe," the clerk said, smiling as she slid a folder across the counter. "Everything's official. The sale your parents attempted is void. The property is legally yours." I nodded once. Calm on the outside, fire inside. The buyers had already wired money to my parents' joint account, but the title wasn't in their names. That meant they committed fraud, a felony. I didn't want them in jail. Not yet. Jail would be mercy. I wanted them cornered, embarrassed, out of options. Outside, the wind was warm. My phone showed 4 missed calls from a Florida number. I walked, let them worry. That night, I called the sheriff and reported an unauthorized attempted sale on a home under my name. I emailed the buyer's agent every document I had. 2 hours later, the deal was frozen. The trucks turned around. But Mom and Dad were already gone. They thought they were sipping margaritas by now. Instead, they were about to learn their new dream house didn't exist. Their bank account would be frozen by a legal hold, and their perfect boy would find out what happens when the gravy train stops. And his wife? She was about to show just how mean Sweet can get when her fantasy gets pulled out from under her. I waited. No texts, no calls, no explanations. I just posted one thing on Facebook. If you ever feel used, don't get angry. Get smart. And always read the deed. Then I turned off notifications. Let them guess. Let them spin. I sat in the empty living room alone and laughed. I wasn't the girl begging to be loved anymore. I was the woman who owned the house. They weren't owners. They were trespassers in a world they thought they built. The first text hit at 2:17 a.m. Where are you? Why does the bank say the house isn't ours? Call me now. Then 2 missed calls, one from Evan, one from a Florida number with no name. I didn't answer. I lay in bed in the dark with my phone face down, smiling. Let them stew. By morning, they were cracking. Evan left a voicemail, his voice split between rage and fear. You need to fix this, Kelsey. You ruined everything. Mom's having chest pains. Dad's yelling at everyone. You think this is funny? Pour out thousands. You have. One day before we take legal action. Legal action? On a house I owned outright. After I got scammed with hugs and crocodile tears. I made eggs and coffee and played his message on speaker so the echo bounced off the walls. Then I sent one group text to all 3. Per Florida law, trying to sell a property you don't own is fraud. I have full documentation. The sale is void. The buyers will be refunded. The house remains mine. Since you left so fast, I assumed you wouldn't mind that I changed the locks. Silence. 3 hours passed. Then a voicemail from Mom. She was crying again. But it sounded different now. Not a save us cry. It was pride breaking apart. Sweetie, we made a mistake. We just wanted to start over. We didn't think you'd take it this far. Your dad didn't mean what he wrote in the note. He panicked. Can we talk? You don't talk to someone who stabs you while hugging you. You walk away and let them hold their own knife. Instead, I called the HOA and reported an unauthorized listing. I updated city records and flagged the property as under dispute in case they tried another trick. I didn't want revenge. I wanted consequences. I planned the next steps with a cold, clear mind. When your family turns your love into a weapon, you stop being their daughter, you become their reckoning. I knew Evan would be the first to crumble. He always does. Pressure hits him like fire to dry grass. Fast, loud, pointless. He called me from a blocked number. I answered and said nothing. Kelsey. His voice was low, wrecked. Claire left me. She took the kids. She said she can't be married to a reckless man-child. She found Dad's letter, the one that said, "Thanks for fixing our credit, loser." He gave a bitter laugh. She called me a parasite. I stayed quiet. He kept talking. Mom and Dad are sleeping on an air mattress in Uncle Brian's basement. He won't let them stay past next week. They want to come back and work things out. They want to move back into the house. I finally spoke. There is no we, Evan. You made that clear when you watched me drain my account and didn't even say thank you. Silence. They're your parents, Kels. You're really going to leave them on the street? I smiled so hard it hurt. Funny. That's exactly what they did to me. No more pretending. I wasn't their golden goose. I was the hammer. Over the next few days, I started over. New locks, new furniture, new life. I repainted the hallway with my childhood height marks on the trim. Not because I hated the past, but because I was done letting it run my present. Then a lawyer called. Their lawyer. He asked about Amicable restitution. A family-centered resolution. I asked one thing. Did they tell you they left me without a home 5 years ago when I asked to stay? Said Evan needed his privacy more than I needed a roof? He paused. No, Ms. Monroe. They didn't mention that. I hung up. I didn't need a judge. I had something. Better, control, peace. They could wave papers all day. The foundation was mine. The morning a moving truck pulled up to my house, I stood in the driveway barefoot in leggings and a hoodie, sipping iced coffee like a small ceremony. Neighbors waved. Some asked if my parents were moving back. I smiled. No. Just clearing out the past and making room for a future that belongs to me. Inside, I opened the hallway closet. Mom's wedding album. Evan's trophies. Dad's dusty. Box of important papers. Insurance he never paid. Taxes he never filed. I boxed it all. Wrote return to sender, taped it, drove it to Uncle Brian's. When he opened the door, the smell of stale coffee and old laundry hit me. I could see them behind him. Mom's hair frizzy, Dad's eyes hollow, Evan on the floor in sweat scrolling like a ghost. I didn't step inside. I set the box on the porch. Dad reached out, hope flickering in his eyes. Kelsey, you should have just said thank you, I said, instead of treating me like your savings account. Mom opened her mouth, but nothing came. She looked thinner. Not from grief, because she was finally carrying her own weight. I turned to go. Evan stood. Kelsey, wait. What are we supposed to do now? I paused and told him the truest thing I've ever said to him. Figure it out the way. I always had to. Then I left. No shouting, no tears. Just my steps fading into their silence. That night, I changed my number, deleted the family group chat, and blocked them everywhere. For the first time in years, my head was quiet. No guilt, no pressure to be the fixer, no more being the good daughter at any cost. They taught me love was a transaction, so I paid them back in kind, with nothing. When someone steals your trust and sells your kindness like a product, you don't buy it back. You lock the door and keep the key. Weeks went by, no calls, no texts, no apologies, just quiet. It was the best sound I'd ever heard. I spent mornings in the sunroom reading books I used to skip to pay their bills. I repotted my mom's old orchids, the ones she said were too fragile. They bloomed for me. I joined a ceramics class. I painted the guest room ocean blue. I turned my dad's off-limits office into a studio for my own business. A room for me. Then an email came from Claire, not Evan. Subject, I know everything and I'm sorry. She told me what happened when they reached Florida, how my parents treated her like a maid, how they expected her to cook, clean, smile, while they spent leftover sale money that wasn't theirs on cruise brochures and bubbly. Then she found the letter, the note that started all of this. She confronted Evan. He blamed me. That's when she decided to go. I thought Evan was a man, she wrote. He's just your father in a younger face. You're the only one who showed real integrity. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. If you ever want to talk woman to woman, I'm here. I didn't reply. Not yet. Not because I was mad, but because I was finally protecting the one person I should have protected first, me. Sometimes healing looks like closing a door. Other times it looks like keeping it locked, even when someone knocks softly. As for Evan, I heard he moved into a cheap one-bedroom near Tampa. No wife, no car, no job, just him and his entitlement. He tried flipping NFTs. It crashed. Of course. It did. My parents? Uncle Brian kicked them out after they missed rent 3 times. Now they bounce between motels and post blurry Facebook updates pretending everything is fine. I know better. When you tear down the only child who ever lifted you up, the ground gives way. The fall is quiet. Last week, I passed a homeless man by the fountain. For a second, I thought it was my dad. It wasn't. Just the same bent shoulders, the same empty stare of someone who bet everything and lost. I kept walking. I don't owe pity to people who fed on my pain. That night, I lit a candle in the hallway, the place I used to hide when they fought. I stood there barefoot, calm, and finally said it out loud. I did the right thing. Not because they suffered, because I stopped. I stopped begging to be loved, stopped paying to belong, stopped handing out second chances like spare change. They thought suffering made me strong. My strength came from walking away. The house is mine now, every brick, every inch, but it isn't about the deed, it's about peace. No more calls, no more guilt dressed up in Bible verses. No more birthday texts from Evan asking for just a little loan until Friday. I blocked them all, in my phone, in my heart. Now I plant flowers where they buried resentment. I host friends who say thank you and mean it. I laugh in the kitchen without a door slamming down the hall. I even started writing again. Maybe a memoir, not to expose them, but to set myself free. To remember I am not the total of what I paid for others. I am the worth they never saw, and the home they will never step into again. This didn't end in revenge. It ended in getting myself back. I didn't destroy them. They did that on their own. I just stopped saving them from it.